You probably heard that saying, revenge is a dish best served cold, right? But what if that dish is actually poison? What happens when the person you're trying to destroy turns out to be yourself? Well, we're about to dive deep into a story that explores exactly that kind of darkness. And really, this quote, it gets right to the heart of the story we're telling today. It's all about that chilling moment when a quest for what you think is justice just twists and morphs into pure self-destruction. It's a point of no return, the kind you don't even see coming until you're way past it. All right, so let's set the scene and meet our main characters. First up, we have Kusum Sharma and her son Arav. On the surface, their life looks totally normal, right? They live in this nice old house. Arav's just a typical college kid, busy with classes and friends. And his mom, Kusum, she seems like your classic, quiet, devoted homemaker. But as you can probably guess, there's something else going on, something hidden just beneath the surface. And this right here, this really gets to the core mystery of the whole thing. You see it, right? By day, she's the perfect, doting mother. But by night, she becomes this secretive figure who just vanishes from the house every single night. And her son, Arif, he's noticed this for years, but he's never, ever dared to ask why. There's just something in her eyes, A strange, unsettling gleam that just screams, don't ask. So, this quiet, almost predictable life they have, it's all about to get turned completely upside down. It starts so simply. One afternoon, Arav brings home a friend from college, a girl named Neha, just to study. Seems totally innocent, right? But what nobody knows is that this one small act is about to trigger a catastrophic and honestly a meticulously planned chain of events. So Kusum comes in to serve them tea, and she starts this little chat with Neha. It seems super casual, just friendly small talk. But just look at these questions. They're not random. Each one is a careful, calculated probe digging for something specific. And with every answer Neha gives, you can almost hear the pieces of a dark old puzzle clicking into place in Kusum's mind. And then, bam. Neha says her parents' names, Vivek and Riya Sinha. And in that instant, everything changes. This is it. This is the moment it all snaps together for her, the final piece of the puzzle. This young woman, Neha, is the daughter of the two people Kusum has spent years hating. As she turns and walks back to the kitchen, this chilling, almost killer smile spreads across her face. And when she comes back, she's holding a plate of homemade sweets. She offers one to Neha, the very first enchanted, poisoned piece. The plan is now officially in motion. Okay, so you're probably thinking, where did all this come from? This isn't just some sudden random act of evil. No. To really understand why Kusum is doing this, we have to rewind. We've got to go back in time and look at a wound that has been left to fester for 20 long years. This timeline, it basically lays out the anatomy of her revenge. It all starts 20 years ago. See, she was in love with her childhood sweetheart, Vivek. He promised to marry her, but then he just leaves her for another woman, Riya. Heartbreak, right? Then, just 2 years later, tragedy strikes again. Kusum's husband dies in a horrible fire, leaving her a widow with a young son to raise all by herself. For years, she just endures. But the real tipping point, that came just 6 months ago. She has a chance encounter with Vivek and Riya, and they just look right through her, like she's nothing. That indifference, that was the final spark. It ignited a rage that had been simmering for 2 decades and sent her down this incredibly dark path. And in her mind, this became her vow, her promise to herself. It's so chilling. I will snatch away all his happiness, just as he snatched mine. At this point, her pain had completely curdled into this single destructive mission. This wasn't about getting justice anymore. This was about total and complete annihilation. She was going to take everything from Vivek, because she felt he had taken everything from her. Okay, so that brings us back to the present day. And now we see Kusum starting to weave this incredibly intricate, sinister web. And the scariest part? She's using kindness as her disguise and a plate of sweets as her weapon. Her plan is it's chillingly methodical. Let's break it down. Step 1 is the lure. She actually encourages the relationship between her son Arav and Neha. She even uses a little magic to make sure they fall deeply in love, because she knows that will make the betrayal so much more painful later on. Then, step 2, she starts sending those enchanted sweets home with Neha. That's the poison, a slow-acting curse aimed directly at Neha's mother, Rhea. Every single step is calculated to cause the maximum amount of pain.
So as Neha's mom, Rhea, starts getting sicker and sicker, Arav notices something really disturbing. He sees this strange look of satisfaction in his mother's eyes. It creeps him out. So one night when she's out on one of her mysterious trips, he gets suspicious and searches her room. And what he finds confirms his absolute worst fears. These are the classic tools of black magic rituals: a glass of water with Neha's name on it, a little packet of hair, a handkerchief with Rhea's name. The proof is right there. It's undeniable.
And this brings us to the weapon itself, black magic, or Kala Jadoo. Now, in this story, we're not talking about flashy theatrical spells. This is a much darker art. It's about using personal items, like hair or a name written down, or a piece of clothing, to forge a direct link to a person so you can harm them from a distance. It's a path people choose for revenge, and it promises incredible power. But, as we'll see, it always comes with a terrible price. All right, here we go. Plan is now moving into its final tragic phase. The web has been perfectly woven, the poison has been delivered, and now it's time to pay the truly devastating price of revenge. And then the phone rings. The news is blunt. Neha's mother, Rhea, is dead. The first part of Kusum's terrible curse is complete. But for Arav, this isn't some distant tragedy. No, this is the final confirmation that his own mother has become a monster. Arav immediately confronts her, and he's just begging, pleading with her to stop. He promises to keep her secret, anything, if she'll just spare Neha. But just look at Kusum's response. There's no emotion, no guilt, no remorse, just this ice-cold determination. She tells him to forget Neha, and then she says it just cool as anything. Now it is her turn. And then she locks her own son in his room to keep him from interfering. Kusum has been waiting for this exact moment. A few days later, a heartbroken Neha, worried because she hasn't heard from Arav, walks right into the lion's den. She comes to their house. Kusum welcomes her with these big, open arms, playing the part of the comforting, motherly figure perfectly. And then she serves Neha one last fatal meal, laced with the exact same magic that killed her own mother. And not long after that, the inevitable happens. Neha dies. She suffers from the same mysterious illness that took her mother. And all the while, Arav is trapped in his room, completely helpless, as the woman he loves is murdered by his own mother. From Kusum's point of view, her revenge looks like it's complete. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot, because revenge is never, ever that clean. What comes next isn't a victory party, it's the chilling, deafening silence of total and utter destruction. This chart, it kind of breaks down the terrible math of her revenge. Sure, Kusum succeeded. She took 2 lives from her enemy's family. But look at the cost. In the process, she caused the 100% destruction of her own family, a price she never, ever saw coming. And here it is, the final unforeseen price. Arav, unable to live with the horror of what his mother has done, what she did to the woman he loved, and her mother, he hangs himself in his room. Kusum's long quest for revenge didn't just destroy her enemy. It took the one thing she had left in the world, her own son. And in that moment of absolute soul-crushing loss, standing there with her son gone and her sanity just shattered, the words of her black magic teacher come echoing back to her. He had warned her. It is the path to ruin, it spares no one. And now she sees the truth. She's completely alone, surrounded by the wreckage of 2 families, and her victory is nothing but dust and ashes. And so that leaves us with this final, haunting question. I mean, she got what she wanted, right? She completely destroyed Vivek's happiness. But in the end, she lost her son, she lost her mind, she lost her soul. So when the pursuit of revenge leaves nothing but ruins for absolutely everyone involved, who really wins?